Hi, everyone, and welcome to the Zen Blonde podcast. It's your girl, Lauren, and today I am joined by a very special guest. His name is Jared Lipscomb. He is a celebrity makeup artist. He's probably friends with one of your favorite reality stars, and he's also a leukemia survivor who's super involved with Be The Match. So we're going to dive into all of that. Welcome to the show, Jared.
Oh my gosh, thank you so much for having me. It is great to be here. Yes, and I also have my Free Britney shirt on for anyone who can't see if they're just listening along. But yeah, so I was also involved in the Free Britney movement too. That was my crowning glory of last year. Honestly,
I think you single-handedly freed Britney while overcoming leukemia, which just means you have superpowers. So Jared and I actually met through the Free Britney movement. And Jared, you were inside the court when everything was going down with Free Britney. What was that like for you?
Well, it's kind of wild because that journey started at the beginning in 2019, pre-pandemic, pre my leukemia diagnosis. And I remember being in the courtroom. Kind of surprisingly, it was a very small Free Britney rally. We had finally figured out the right courthouse to go to because, remember we were in the wrong courthouse. And I actually went into the courtroom, and this was when things were still secretive. And I saw Britney enter with her mom. I saw her in court. It was the day she got paparazzi leaving barefoot from court, It was that day where we were feeling really hopeful. And then, of course, the judge quickly said, "This is a private matter. Everyone, please leave." We all left. It was me and the Britney's Graham girls, Babs and Tess were in there. We all had to be kicked out. And then I ended up getting diagnosed. Britney's story kind of became a bigger deal as the pandemic, left people with so much time on their hands. And then I was able to recover from my leukemia. And by the time I was kind of back out on the streets, everything had blown up for Britney, and in the best way possible, where she had finally gotten her attorney, and all the horrible revelations were revealed about the the bugging and the wiretapping and the abuse, the gross abuse. So it was really wild, and it's that time where I was recovering from leukemia and my transplant was really a great time for me to learn about the case, and that's where I became a unofficial expert and one of the leaders of the Britney movement, just by being in proximity, being able to get to the courthouse so quickly, and being one of the few people who were involved in the movement that already had a smaller following than others, because we were just a group of fans of Britney. None of us were technically influencers. That kind of came at the second stage, where it was oh, we need to get influencers and celebrities involved and stuff. So it was a wild journey.
And get an inkling that there was something weird going on with Britney? Because I know I got an inkling through somebody who worked, I won't give specifying details, but somebody who worked in an office that she had to go into, and it was a very weird encounter. And I heard about that weird encounter, and then I said, you guys had already got the Free Britney movement going, and then I was there's some credence to what's going on here. But when did you get your inkling that something was not right with what was going on with Britney?
I mean, I would say I knew since that 2008 or 2009 documentary. I guess it's 2008 documentary, back when they were showing oh, look how well Britney's doing now, if it was called For the Record, an MTV documentary. And I remember there was little clips that just felt off when Britney is crying and saying, they're do you ever feel something about being free? And she's I'm too controlled. And now in hindsight, those clips really ring back to me. But when I went to her show in Vegas in maybe 2014, her security guard, who would end up being the one who's probably going to hopefully go to jail for spying on her, he was very aggressive and rude and psychotic at the show. And that was my first inkling, this is not a normal security guard, because I'm a pop concert goer. I know how I'm front row at so many shows. I know how the security guards are, and I know how they interact with their clients, and
something
it was shocking.
Amiss.
So
it was crazy to see at the courthouse, when she was freed. I was outside, you were inside, but people were literally had handles of vodka outside the Stanley Musk courthouse,
yeah,
just ripping shots in the streets. It was total pandemonium. It was such a great moment. But that's wild that you kind of noticed before, because how long have you been a Britney fan for? When was your first, when did Britney first grab you?
I mean, of course, I'm 34 almost. So,
okay.
Of course, Britney, I grew up with Hit Me Baby One More Time. I was, 9 years old on a trampoline listening to it. So all of that stuff. But it was the 2007 era when Blackout came out that I really was like, you know, like I got an ambulance coming by. But it was this Blackout era when I was like, oh my gosh, she's so much more than just this picture perfect pop star. She's this relatable, fully formed woman. And there was something about it that just spoke to me as a 19 or 20-year-old, however old I was just coming into my own in that era. And I related to her on such a level of just like this, you know, I mean, I was like a straight A student, and then I was kind of like finishing high school, and then I was like, I'm going to party and experience like my sexuality and experience who I am. And it seemed to be kind of coinciding with her, what I think she was doing at the same time. You know, she was recovering from a divorce and all this trauma in her life, but basically she just wanted to go out and feel normal for a little bit. So I felt that, and that's how I related to her at the beginning. That's why I'm so passionate about being like, not to quote, you know, at the time, Chris Crocker, but to say like, leave Britney alone, because she truly has never been left alone. So that's when I really, you know, I really got her and got what she was about. Like, she's funny, she's witty, she's smart, she wants to party, but she's also a great person. No one's ever said a nasty word about her except her own family members, which goes to show. And, you know, she's iconic.
I very similar age to you. I'm 30. And I still have a signed Baby One More Time album in my room that my grandparents got me. And it was like, when people would come over for a slumber party, it was like the thing that I would be like, well, come see like my Britney museum. And I still to this day, like when I'm in my car, like I can almost guarantee if I'm not listening to Cher, I'm listening to like Britney Spears, which is why my friend John Joseph says I'm a gay man in a woman's body, which is definitely the truth. But I agree with you. Blackout was at a time where I was coming into those teenage years. Even Circus like made me feel like such a bad bitch in high school. I went to her Circus tour though, and she just, something was lackluster. Like when I first saw her, I was in second grade. Jones Beach, she was my first concert ever. And, you know, that was young, like Britney, who, you know, had all her irons in the fire and was just a completely different performer than during Circus, where I feel like she was starting to get kind of bogged down by the people around her. And I just don't know how Lou Taylor's not in jail, or any of these people who were involved in her conservatorship, because it was so insidious and just messed up and evil, and such a money-making scheme for all of them, to the detriment of Britney.
I mean, absolutely. And I think, you know, people are trying to, again, my big stance is like, we spent all this time to free Britney. And so now it's time to let Britney be free and make the decisions she wants to make. So people are saying she needs to do this, she needs to do that. And I say, listen, back off. She needs to do what she wants to do because she's finally free. But I have a sneaking suspicion, just based on the captions she's given us and how she's speaking about her family, that a criminal case, and her attorney even backed it up, a criminal case is right around the corner. And I think that's when jail time is going to be a very bit real possibility for not just Lou Taylor, but for her dad, for Edon, the security team at Black Box, and so many other people are going to be implicated in this, or are going to start the finger pointing blame, and one person will go down for all of it. So it's going to be wild.
I love that she used like a Michelle Obama quote, or Matthew Rosengart did in like one of his rebuttals. He's like, when they go low, we go high. And I find myself weirdly attracted to Matthew Rosengart, and I can't tell if it's just because he's freeing Britney or if it's because he's actually a handsome man. He's a handsome man though. But no, I love all. I
mean, we're in LA, darling. He's a very good looking older gentleman.
Right? I was like, woo!
He's a high stakes celebrity attorney. He's hot.
Yeah, he's got it going on, that Matty Rosengart. And you know, the thing is, I think what's great about this too is it's definitely opened up the world's consciousness to like the other people, because we saw just this week Amanda Bynes was you know, released from her conservatorship, and I think you posted something about that, didn't you?
I did, yeah. I basically said because even people are saying, well, you know, DMing me being like, well, I agree, no one should be in a conservatorship, but Kanye should. And I said, no, here we go again. A conservatorship, people really need to be reminded of why Britney's case is so unprecedented and why it should have been terminated years ago, is because a person really only qualifies for a conservatorship if they are so incapacitated that they are unable to get food into their body for nourishment and to be able to sustain that type of, like, they would not be able to stay alive if they did not have the assistance of someone there feeding them, providing shelter. And I know we've learned with Britney, they use that terminology very loosely, like, oh, providing shelter, and almost against her, because it's like, yeah, she's a celebrity. Everyone does everything for her. She has a broker, a financial accountant, all of this stuff was managed by other people anyways. So you don't need someone to come in and take over their money and take away her right to vote and take away her right to her own body. That was the thing that really got me, that Handmaid's Tale shit of her,
Yep.
The IUD in it. And so I reiterated on my Instagram was, guys, no matter what, because people want to say, well, Amanda Bynes actually did she had displayed destructive behavior that deemed herself harmful to others and possibly herself. It's a fact. She tried to light a dog on fire. That is not normal behavior. That is a mentally ill person. But nonetheless, it does not mean that she's so incapacitated that for the rest of her life, because of maybe she's bipolar and was having a manic episode fueled by drugs and lack of drugs. Who knows? We don't know what the real story is. But the point is no one on that level who can perform, and Amanda graduated from college and all of that stuff. A conservatorship should not be a first option, a second option, a third option. It should be the last ditch option for someone who is absolutely incapacitated and not able to take care of themselves. It has nothing to do with money, except for the sense that we need to take care of this person and ensure that they have enough money to have the medical attention that they deserve for the rest of their life. Because again, these people are usually so incapacitated, they are on feeding tubes. They are in vegetable comatose states. They are not headlining residencies or graduating from FITM. They are incapacitated. So
absolutely. And the thing is, I think the movie I Care a Lot shed light onto how people can strip people of their rights and use it for their own financial gain. And from what we've seen with Lou Taylor, she was recommending, there's that clip of Michael Lohan saying Lou Taylor was recommending a conservatorship for Lindsay Lohan. Or I think she was trying to get Kanye West into a conservatorship. And I like what you said about it. It really is meant for somebody who's in a vegetative state. People can be, need to be locked down, need to be on a psychiatric hold, need to be in a hospital. But Britney Spears, if she was able to go out on that stage every night and perform and able to, be practicing at the level that she was and everything that she was doing, does she need a financial manager? Do I expect Britney to be the financial master of her money? Absolutely not. That's why she's wealthy enough to have all the people in place that can manage all those business affairs for her that have nothing to do with her family, that aren't pocketing insane amounts of money for questionable jobs. And, I just think Lou Taylor is another one where I think that in the next few years, more and more is going to come out, and we'll probably get a Tinder swindler of Lou Taylor.
I can only hope that whole, whatever that is, whatever she is. I mean, she blocked me. I knew she was up to no good the second I commented something on Britney's post back when Britney was still in the, in the psychiatric ward against her will that she's been referencing a lot of times, where they took the 8 pints of blood a day or whatever she references. And I remember just commenting oh, it seems like Lou Taylor is onto something. And then next thing you know, I'm blocked by Lou Taylor. I was like, that's wild to be going through those kinds of comments. Not
Isn't
even tagging her.
Isn't it funny to see? It's so funny because I'm blocked by Armie Hammer and I've never DM'd him or messaged him. But isn't it funny that certain people just go through and block. It's very, very, very interesting.
Well, they know who's bringing attention in this roundabout way. And see, the thing is I'm not easy to shadow ban on Instagram or whatever, because my content is pretty positive. It's pretty much makeup and cancer survivor stuff. And then my Instagram stories was heavy on the Britney stuff. But, the fan accounts where they're posting a lot of vitriol and that stuff, that's easy to report. It's easy to report an account that's posting the same kind of content. Because if nothing else, you can just say people can say, oh, they're posting misinformation. And if Lou Taylor gets enough of her minions to do that for her, they can shut down a Britney fan account. But they can't really shut down accounts like us who touch on all these different things. So it's be better for them just to block us, you know? So and honestly, it's like, yeah, I know we're iconic. Sorry, Army. Sorry, Lou. Like, we know we're iconic, and you have to block us because you're afraid to death of us. And guess what? We won, and you lost. So
the world knows, and this is the age of Aquarius. We're all just realizing things, as Kylie Jenner would say. So my last question on the Britney front is: have you ever met Britney IRL?
No, I've only met Sam Asghari. I've met Jason Treywick, her ex-fiance. I've met Glenn Nutley, the guy responsible for designing all the hair and makeup for the Piece of Me show. And I've been to his studio, and he showed me private sessions that he would have of Britney, and I tried on her wigs, and he showed me where he shot her in his garage at his little home studio. So I've had all these one-off encounters with people in the Britney sphere. And in fact, it was so interesting. A psychic DM'd me one time, and I mean, this could apply to anything and anyone. And of course, I'm a huge Britney fan, but she sent me this really weird message and said, like, it was like in the middle of the night. She's like, I just got this weird, like, premonition thing. I don't know what she said, that you're going to meet Britney in the next 3 months. So let's, like, keep that in mind. But the next day, Britney's assistant, Vicky T, started liking my stuff. And we know that Vicky T has been kind of coordinating. Britney has a lot of trust in Vicky T, her new assistant, who is also randomly a singer for Cobra Starship, which is like, I kind of think it's like a perfect fit for Britney's assistant, like someone who understands the biz and is a female in the biz. But it's interesting because she's been handling kind of like who's cutting Britney's hair. Like, Britney's hair, the last time it got done after her disastrous purple affair, which she hated, was a friend or someone that did Vicky T's hair. And, it's kind of cool. So I'm like now being like, Vicky, I'll do your makeup, girl. But, and if that leads to me doing Britney's makeup, so be it. I'll do it. I'll come back to work early.
I'm convinced it's going to happen. And just so you know, like, I don't expect you to invite me as your assistant that day. But, like, I'm going to call you for the play-by-play. But also, like, I mean, I have like minimal makeup skills, but like I will hand you your brushes. I will call you King Jared. Whatever you need, I will be your assistant.
Deal, but here's the thing: if it ever happens, I will respect Britney's privacy like, I would obviously talk about it and post pictures and everything, but I would respect Britney's privacy because, like, I would never, after everything I fought for, do that, you know what I mean? But it would be such a tough, it would be almost like I'd almost have to turn down the job because it'd be like I'd almost have to be like, can I just meet Britney and like just be like, like meet her like how you meet the president at the White House and she just is like, thank you for your service. Like, I almost feel like that's how I need to meet Britney instead of like getting in her circle or anything.
You need a Medal of Honor.
Emotionally handle it.
No, I've always said, like, because I think she had a reaction to people at, like, I think it was like the pumpkin patch, like coming up to her and she's like, how embarrassing for you. And I always thought to myself, like, if I saw her, like, I would just like give her a soft smile and keep walking. Like, out in public, like, I would never bother her because I just feel like, I mean, in the words of Chris Crocker, like, I would just leave Britney alone, And, but if I agree with you, it's almost like we need free Britney. Like, you need like the free Britney Medal of Honor, where she like gives you like you get like a little medal that's like, it's like pink and it says like, it's Britney, bitch, and then you get like an amazing photo with her, you hug her, and then you go on your merry way, and you just know that you.
And she doesn't have to do anything else. It can be a private thing. She's like, like I'm gonna edit all these photos. I'll send them back to you. My team will send them back. Like, she can, and then she can just do what she wants to do. So, yeah, I mean, I would love to meet her, especially after everything that we've been through, together as like as a fan base, we became really an activist group. And, but if we never meet, it's all good because that's not what it's about. That's, I volunteered I continue to volunteer with so many people and so many organizations and stuff. And the reason we volunteer in general, I know you're philanthropic, like, we do it because of the work is good. So it's, it would be a treat to meet Britney, obviously as a longtime fan, but either way, as long as she's doing her thing, dipping it and doing it and turning it up, we're good.
And the thing is, too, that she's not being treated like a zoo animal anymore at these concerts where she had to meet all these people. Like, that was terrible. And I think the other good thing, too, is, I'm going to butcher the pronunciation of her name, but the girl in Star Trek, Nyota Uhura, this opened up something for her because she's in a conservatorship, and Amanda, so.
Nichelle Nichols?
Is that who it is? I was Googling it earlier.
She played the character.
I was Googling it today, and I was like, there's another woman from Star Trek who's in a conservative. So Michelle Williams, she's another one.
Nichelle Nichols.
Michelle Nichols. So she's another one that everyone's fighting for now. And is there an update on her that we know of?
Unfortunately, her case, because again, these conservatorships are so insidious, it got moved to New Mexico or somewhere in the Southwest where her son is in charge. And they always say beware of, I mean, I Care a Lot shows a stranger coming in and taking over, but they do say that it's more unprecedented for a family member to be involved in a conservatorship because it's best to have a third party. It's best to have a third party who's kind of, if hoping that they're right and just and doing the right thing, like a medical professional. Right. So once again, in Nichelle Nichols' situation, it's a family member who uprooted her, sold her house. She had her life here in LA where she wanted to retire, and with her, friend group and everything. He uprooted her, moved her to a smaller place, profited off of her finances, and it's been moved out of state. So we don't know how much power we have because a lot of our Free Britney legislation that the Free Britney team is working on is based in, we have to start somewhere, and so we're starting here in Los Angeles and spreading it out. But we've got a lot of advocates who are working on that case, including Angelique Fawcett, who's really leading up the Free Nichelle movement. So there's a lot. I don't know what's happening since it got moved, but I imagine it's going to be a tedious process just like Britney's was.
Well, we'll be keeping our eyes on it.
We brought a lot of attention to it. Yeah.
And we'll all be keeping our eyes on it. Anyone listening, Google Nichelle, say the last name again?
Nichols.
Google Nichelle Nichols and read up on her story, because she was a Star Trek icon. I did not watch the show, I'm not going to lie, but I just know she was iconic.
Neither did I, but she was the first Black woman on Star Trek, like in this primetime role or in a sci-fi role. I mean, just paved the way for so many people, so many actresses, so many Black actresses, Black entertainers, and once again, women being taken advantage of. I know it's not just women who get put in conservatorships, but there is this, sense that there's a little bit of misogyny and sexism around these conservatorships. So we're going to keep doing our due diligence. Team Free Britney has not stopped just because Britney's free. So we keep on keeping on, Lauren, as you know, while staying zen.
Absolutely. Like kind of zen, but like until we're not, right? So switching up gears, yeah. I love that you're basically friends with the entire cast of Vanderpump Rules. And like, how did that happen? Like I feel like you were in at a very early time with them where they probably weren't even reality stars. It seems like you guys have been friends for years.
It does feel that way, yeah. It's just kind of one of those Los Angeles, right place, right time stories. And I was working with NBC Universal, and I had a friend who was like, oh, we need touch-ups for the cast of the show, Vanderpump Rules, which I was doing a lot of those kind of jobs in between, like, my personal clients. So I would like take little touch-up jobs. It pays really great. You go in, you just dust some powder on, maybe some lip gloss, whatever, and it so happened to be the cast of Vanderpump Rules. And it just happened to be, at that time, like, I was working with some Netflix stars. Vanderpump Rules had just come off one of its most groundbreaking seasons that was just full of drama and intrigue, and just you could not believe it. It was like tune-in TV, and people were being like, this show is like a Shakespearean melodrama tragedy. And Instagram was just starting to blow up in that way where people were starting to be like, oh, we can profit off Instagram, because Instagram used to not have reels, didn't have products to buy, and you couldn't shop in there. And it was just like the perfect storm. And they also didn't even have glam, because Bravo can be so cheap sometimes that, and they viewed them, they were like, oh, that's our show about servers. They don't really need glam. They can do their own glam. And so they were kind of stuck with the leftover makeup artists that, Lisa Vanderpump's makeup artist would call. So they were maybe a little more dated, or they were used to working on clients who were not our age. And I think it was just a natural fit, because I'm the same age as most of the people on the cast, especially the people that I'm closest with, which is Britney, Ariana. Well, I'm actually just going to name the whole cast, but because I'm going to say Britney, Ariana, Katie, Stassi, Lala, Sheena, who am I forgetting? Whoever else. I just became friends
Jiggy.
with Raquel 2 weeks ago. Oh, I think Jiggy died, but I've held Jiggy a million times. Puffy's the new one. That's
You're
what I'm always
blessed by
holding
an angel by touching any of those dogs. They're so cute.
Yes. I love to do that on the shoot. I always make Lisa's assistant give it to me. I'm like, I got to do some content real quick. And she's like, oh my God, you can't just take this dog. And I'm like, I believe I can.
I believe so.
But anyways, yeah. So it was just a happenstance, and we just became friends because, again, when I moved to LA, I was doing what they did. You know, the show, I moved the same year the show started filming, and I was working at a restaurant. I was going to the back alley of my restaurant and getting into fights with the people that I was hooking up with at the restaurant. Like, I lived that same life. And coincidentally, like, my ex at the time had lived in the same building that Jax was living in, and it was next door to the building that Katie famously fell through. Like, so it was just like so many layers of like, oh my God, like, you know, like this specific address. And I was like, yeah, literally I spend like half my time there. He's like, we used to film there all the time. Like, we've crossed paths so many times that it was just like meant to be, I feel. And they became really my great friends and really supported me during like my cancer journey and cancer battle. But it was a wild time because they were all on the show. The show was, I mean, it was like when Rihanna was DMing Katie and Chrissy Teigen was inviting us. Like, me, Britney, and Kristen went somewhere, and Chrissy Teigen invited us to the Becca Cosmetics thing. And then when we show up a few minutes late, you have all these celebrities there, and Chrissy Teigen is on stage, and she calls out us because she's such a Vanderpump Rules fan. So it was just so cool. And, you know, it's just like the zeitgeist of it all. And then, you know, they run a tight friend group because they've been burned by so many people. I was shocked to learn how many of their friends, air quotes for those who are just listening, would sell stories to them for a couple $100 to like Us Weekly or Daily Mail. So then I realized, like, damn, there's, you know, and then you're reminded how shitty LA can be and how thirsty people can be. And even though I love this, you know, to chit chat and I love the spotlight and I'm not shy at all, like, I've never been like a hungry tiger. So, and I think that radiates from me. I think it's very apparent that, like, you know, I just love doing what I do, whether it's being on a podcast, whether it's doing someone's makeup. And that's the thing. It's like, I don't even know if I'm going to go back to doing makeup again full time, but like, I'll always do Britney's makeup because I love to do Britney Cartwright from Vanderpump Rules. I love Britney and she's a dear friend. So like, I'll always do her glam. You know what I mean? So that's kind of where we're at. So, but yeah, it's wild to walk that line of seeing someone, you know, like, you know, the Bravo accounts follow me, they DM me, they ask me questions, and they want to know what's going on in real time because I'm hanging out with Katie, and they can see in it, you know, people are zooming in and saying like, where's a wedding ring, and just all sorts of stuff. So it's interesting. It's been interesting being their friend, but obviously love them to pieces.
Yeah, that's such an amazing story, and I totally get it with like the thirstiness of LA. When I first like started engaging with other TikTokers and growing my account, like, I went into it as like, oh, I'm kind of new to LA. Like, these will be like new built-in friends that I can talk to about the algorithm and everything that I'm doing on here. And when I met my first TikTok friend, he was like, just such an instant and genuine connection. But then like the clout chasing and contrived nature of certain things started becoming apparent to me. And I was really like surprised, just because I think I go into things a little bit more naive and like wanting to be genuine and like create those friendships. So, I mean, I get that energy from you, and I think that's why people are really drawn to you.
So that is so sweet to say. Thank you.
It's the truth. Like, I immediately just got good energy from you when I saw you at Free Britney, and I was like, oh, I just like innately trust and like that person.
And I can be still a bit, like, I can be a bitch. Like, I used to be mad at Sheena all the time. I mean, to be fair, the entire cast was like against Sheena at the time, so I was just kind of being loyal to my friends. But like, I can be rude, I can be bitchy. Like, I'm not this perfect person, but it really is like, there is a difference between being like a thirsty, hungry tiger clout chaser who's just doing it, and then there is a separation of like, these are my real friends. Like, they are three-dimensional people, and when they're not filming a reality show for 3 months out of the year and doing like all the reality show stuff, they have lives and they have other friends. And, you know, it's just a coincidence that I happen to be one of their friends. One of my favorite things was a Reddit poll asking like, who's the most desperate hanger-oner of Vanderpump Rules? And they had me listed as the third. And I was just like, oh my God, you guys. And of course, like, I take it in stride because it's Reddit. It is what it is. You know, like, that's it. Obviously, the show has characters on it who have been canceled, who have been the subject of many things. But I know, you know, I've talked to them personally, and I've made my personal decision to stay friends with who I've chosen to stay friends with. And it's so funny to see these little Reddit Reddit things like that pop up, because I'm like, you guys, there's actual real hanger-oners. There are actual people who only come around when they're filming the show because they're so desperate for camera time. I'm over here. I'm at some of their houses every night, never posting on Instagram because because we're like, when you're hanging out with your friends, you don't just sit there on like Instagram being like, look who I'm with, my friend. Look who I'm with, my friend. So I take it all in stride, that Reddit stuff, but I did tickle me to pieces because I was like, Oh my gosh, out of all the people who've been around for a long time, like since the beginning of the show, you're gonna pick me as the most desperate hanger-oner. So go Orf Reddit.
It's
but
just
I
because
loved
they
it. I was kind of
see you,
flattered.
though. Reddit is actually such a beast, and you should take it as flattery because it just means you're relevant, and that's literally all that it means. And it means that you're a good friend, and they would have picked any friend that was in the wings, you know. And it's like,
Well,
obviously,
I
you're
was
not
flattered because they included like not skinny but not fat, and like Heather, like they included celebrities in this mix. So I was like, oh, well, if you're going to include me, then thank you very much. So I took it as a compliment, even though I came in third place. I wanted to be number one.
You know, if you don't have haters, you haven't made it. I mean, truly, you know.
Oh, good point.
You know, just go to my podcast reviews. You'll see all the crazy Armie Hammer fans in there. But anyway,
yikes.
So my question for you, now you don't have to answer this, but I'm going to ask you. Now, I saw Mr. Tom Schwartz a few months ago, and he seemed a little bit downcast at, you know, at Tom, and I was like, something's not right. And did you like hear about Tom and Katie's divorce before it hit the news?
Kind of. So the way the friend group works, you know, there's obviously like I am friends with I'm closer to like Britney and Kristen, and obviously Katie is really close with Stassi, and she's still on the show, and some of them aren't on the show. So I definitely knew that there was kind of like what you're saying. I probably knew more than what most people found out on the day that the news broke, but it's not in my nature, I suppose, to be like, I don't notice things like wedding rings. I don't know. I'm kind of unaware about a lot of things. So like, for instance, like the one time, and again, Katie's not one of my main friends that I'm seeing. So it was just not something that I was really aware of, but I should have. In hindsight, I was like, oh yeah, like I remember now, like Katie was staying at Stassi's, like, and they even posted on Instagram, and then I saw her and I was like, oh, Katie, we should get together. Like I've been meaning to come over. And she's like, well, I'm at Stassi's right now, you know? And I was like, okay, cool. You know, so I'm sure like she went when she was like, you know, that was supposed to be being like, oh yeah, I know, sorry. But I was just like, oh my gosh, no problem. When you're done staying at Stassi, and like, it just never clicked. But that just kind of goes to me being kind of like oblivious. But I did know obviously beforehand, but, yeah, I wasn't, you know, it's not like they're like, oh my gosh, Jared, we have news for you. Please don't. Probably because because I'm so oblivious, I would accidentally get on a podcast and be like, oh, you know, Tom and Katie's divorced. Like, and they'd be like, what? What do you mean they're divorced? So it's probably for the best that I found out a couple days before the news broke. So, but also I didn't know because like Tom was not really saying they were getting a divorce either. So, you know, because he was like, even as he said in his statement, he wasn't ready to use the D word. So that's what I had heard. I was just kind of like, oh, they're taking a break. And I was like, I get that. Like I was in a 3-year relationship and I took a 2-week break from my boyfriend, like, you know, from my ex. So I get it. So
it happens, you know, people definitely take breaks in long-term relationships. So, but I mean, it's more of a testament to the friend group that nobody was really talking about it deeply. And, you know, I mean,
well, we're pretty loyal and we're pretty respectful, especially about stuff like that. Like, you know, they summed it up pretty well. Like, yeah, we're on reality TV, but this is still a real thing. And I think that's the other thing that kind of bums me out when I see the accounts that I follow and that follow me. Because I am a Bravo fan. Like, I love Beverly Hills. I love Salt Lake City. I got to do Sonya's makeup from New York. I've had all filmed for Real Housewives of Orange County. They filmed the drag queen bingo with my birthday party. Like, I'm very interconnected with them all. But like the Bravo accounts, when they start saying like this is a publicity stunt for season 10, it really bothers me because it's like these are two of my friends that are hurting, you know, like they're going through something hard. So that's the part where it's like, I get they're on TV, but I wish, and I just hope that they're not seeing the comments because I just can imagine, like, I just remember how it felt when I got dumped and I had a breakup. And I'm not saying one person dumped because, you know, it's a marriage that lasted 12 years, whereas my relationship was only 3 years. But I just know, like, I was very upset after my relationship ended. So I just can imagine that they're, you know, I hope that they can find some peace with the nastiness on the internet, which I know we know about, and it's going to come no matter what. But, you know, it's not a PR stunt. I can tell you that much.
No. And the thing is, I mean, who would want to use that as a PR stunt? That's devastating. So I wish them both the best. And I hope they both land in a really good place mentally and just in general, because divorce is so challenging. I can't imagine going through it, you know, publicly. It's just awful. But now that you piqued my interest on Sonia, because now I need to know all about I want to hear about the OC housewives now, and I want to hear about Sonia. You just glazed right over.
I just drop in these little bombs when I'm talking about something else. I'm so bad about it. People are like, let me just sweep up all the names you just dropped all over the place, you little psychopath. But I swear to God, I'm not a clout chaser. I just know, like, you have Bravo fans and they love to, like, these stories are just iconic. Because I'm a Bravo fan too. So the Bravo shoot I got to work on with Sonia was thanks to my connection to Vanderpump Rules and all the production and stuff. And it was one of those cheesy commercials where they had, like, the housewives coming together to reenact a scene from, like, a movie. And it was that really serious movie called, like, The Kitchen. And it starred, like, Melissa McCarthy and Elizabeth Moss and somebody else. And it was a real serious, like, 70s movie. And it was, like, Melissa McCarthy's big serious role. And so anyways, for some reason, they decided Sonia, Vicky Gunvalson, and Leanne from Dallas. I bet you they're regretting that choice. So they said they were the three girls and they were gonna kind of like play the characters of each of the characters from the movie or something. It was ridiculous. I mean, it was so ridiculous. But Sonia was fine. Like, she was absolutely she was convinced we signed an NDA, first of all. So she was just like, oh yeah, well, you guys can't talk about anything I say in this room. You guys signed NDAs. And we're like, okay, like, but we didn't sign NDAs, and she, like, could not absorb that knowledge. So she was just on the phone with Dorinda, speakerphone. It was right before the first BravoCon, and she was like saying, like, I'm not going to BravoCon because Jim Bellino had just sued, like, Tamara Judge or something about something she said on a podcast, or I don't know what that drama was. But the whole reason, like, I do know this, and I know this is like exclusive tea that I've never been shared because it's so minor, but literally Sonia was not at BravoCon because she was afraid any fan could sue her because Jim Bellino sued Tamara Judge about that podcast. That was her logic of thinking. She was like, I'm so afraid I'm going to say the wrong thing that I'm going to get sued. So she literally opted out of BravoCon. And I heard her conversation with Dorinda, and Dorinda's like, I really don't think you have to worry about that. It's like, we're going to be on a panel, like, we'll be on panels and doing meet and greets, and you don't have to do the meet and greets. And she's like, I can't afford to get sued. I can't afford to get sued. And then she came back in freaking out. She didn't know what a breakfast burrito was. She called it a soft scramble egg wrap with a tomato sauce. And I said, the breakfast burrito? She's like, I can't eat it. I can't eat that. So they went out, had to get her juices. Very diva behavior for someone who traveled with her intern. And iconic. It was so funny. We were laughing the entire time. So sweet to us, but just like, I felt bad for the production because they were just like, come on, guys. And she would be like, I'm the best one here. She would literally tell Vicky Gunvalson, she's like, I'm the best actress out of all three of us. And it was just like insane. But like, she has such a charm about her that you're just like, yeah, he ain't wrong. I mean, you're iconic. And at the very end, the highlight was when we wrapped up for the day, you know, she's beautiful skin. I mean, it was easy. One of the easiest makeup jobs I've had. Like, I'm used to working with younger people, which is a little bit easier. No shade, you know, I'm not being ageist at all. I'm just saying it's you know, when skin is young, more youthful, it's easier to work with, obviously, you know, just less to deal with and whatnot. And so she had amazing skin. Like, I used such little foundation. It was incredible, especially after I saw it like on the commercial. But at the end, she was like, okay, who's ready for pictures? And me and the hairstylist, Bradley Leak, who does all the girls' hairstylists, if you know me, you know him probably if you followed any of our glams. We're like, what? And she's like, okay, come on, I know you guys want pictures, so let's do it. And she had a personal meet and greet with just us, this makeup team that was hired. You know, we were hired by Bravo, and she knew we wanted pictures, and we did, obviously, but we didn't ask at any point. She just assumed. And that kind of confidence was, I gotta tell you, it was inspirational. I was like, holy shit, I have never in my life just been told, like, you are now part of a meet and greet, and you are meeting me, and come on down, who's taking these pictures? All right, we got it. And that's how the day ended. And she was like, thank you so much. And then she ended up texting me a couple days later saying, what lashes did I use? Can I connect her with the company? She wants them for free. And I sure did, and she got them for free. And so did I.
God, what an icon. Honestly,
I do have her phone number unless she's changed it since then, though. So I've never once texted her since.
She rolls through like a storm. That's how I see Sonia.
Oh my God, it was a storm. And think about it, Vicky and Leanne are there, and they're very professional. They were very humble, but Sonia is Sonia through and through.
Yeah, so my friend got invited to this like influencers and friends only preview of her show, like the cabaret show. And so I'm such
Oh
a
my
Bravo
God.
psycho. I'm laying on a beach and I'm like, do I buy a ticket to go to New York in 2 days? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing it. So I flew out on a red eye so I wouldn't miss any work. I worked from New York and I like flew out to New York to see it. And genuinely, like, I had the same exact experience as you, where it was like, she truly definitely was a bit like three sheets to the wind on stage. Like, I'm not gonna lie, she had a few. She had knocked a few back, maybe for the nerves beforehand. And she, I get it, Sonia. If I had to perform cabaret, I would be 3 martinis deep. And you know, sometimes 3 martinis deep, I do. And so anyway, like she was just very much herself. And we brought a friend that worked at Bravo, and he, like after the show, was like, Sonia, take a picture with the girls. And she was like, you know, it's my first performance. But she's just going off and just going on and on. And was truly very much herself. And I think that as Bravo fans, we just love people who are genuinely themselves. Because I think now, like, because there's so many new shows where they've seen so many seasons of Housewives and they're coming on as a housewife, their personality is like an amalgamation of different housewives and like trying to give bits and trying to be something. But Sonia was just always it, and she's such good TV. You know? So the other question I have for you is, you know, you're a celebrity makeup artist. You've had a bunch of crazy experiences. I know. Please hold, LA. I hope they're okay. But I know you've had a bunch of like crazy experiences with celebrity clients, and you and I kind of sidebarred about Simi Hayes, which if you guys listening don't know,
God.
Simi Hayes, like one of the Simis or the Hayeses is dating, or was seen with The Weeknd. And so I was always fascinated by them because they basically got like a head transplant. Like they went from looking one way to like both getting identical plastic surgery. And like the before and afters were crazy. So I knew about the before and afters before I knew about them. But what was that like?
Oh my God, it was a nightmare. I tell you what, I've only had 2 bad jobs ever. One was working on a Madonna music video, and it really wasn't Madonna's fault. It was her team's fault. It was disorganized and horrible, and the people they hired were horrible. But with Simi Hayes, I will say this, they are very litigious, so I'm going to just throw in an allegedly and just say this is my personal experience of how I remember it after being a cancer survivor and going through chemo brain and stuff. But yeah, this is my opinion because they did DM me, threaten to, quote, persecute, not prosecute me after I posted a video about them. So they are litigious even though they get the verbiage wrong. So this is my experience with them. They were doing something called BeautyCon, which I was the resident makeup artist for BeautyCon for a couple of years. So I'm used to dealing with kind of like annoying influencers. No offense to influencers who are annoying, but sometimes influencers are annoying, especially the beauty ones, because they think, you know, like, especially when they're coming in with a makeup artist who works with people. Like my background was working on red carpets and doing like the SAG Awards and Netflix and then transitioning to reality TV. But in this in-between time, I was doing red carpets mainly, then working with BeautyCon. And so my glam was soft and beautiful. Anyways, they hired me kind of just to be there for the shoot because they wanted Simi Hayes. They're twins. One is renamed Simi and one has renamed Hayes. They are Sama and Haya. Their brother is Faye Kadra. You know Faye? Your boy Faye or Fi?
Right. I've seen him around.
He is their brother. Yeah, he's Kendall Jenner's friend, Kylie's friend. He was allegedly hooking up at one point. I think they said that he was hooking up with them. There's rumors he's also gay. Who knows? Who cares? Whatever. The point is that's kind of their connection to the Kardashians. I ended up on a shoot with them because of BeautyCon, and they were just cruel, vicious, mean girls. I could not believe someone who... And I'm friends with the producers at BeautyCon, not the founder of BeautyCon. I believe there will probably be a scammer documentary about BeautyCon at some point. If that's a very interesting story in and of itself, but that's for another time. But so this experience with, you know, we're at Milk Studios, one of the most gorgeous, expensive studios. So they're spending all sorts of money. And you already get this thing of like, well, why is my rate this if we're at this kind of studio and I'm doing someone who's adjacent to the Kardashians glam? This is already kind of suspicious, you know, whatever. So there was a series of just like, you know, first of all, just the unprofessionalism of just being spoiled brats who are hours late to the shoot. There's that. Then the second part is the entire crew consists of their friends, which, hey, listen, I don't mind, you know, giving your friends opportunities. But when I'm dealing with these two twins and three supermodel girls who I don't recognize any of their names, and interestingly enough, most of them don't follow each other. I did do a little scan to see if they're still friends, and it doesn't look like they are, which does not shock me as we continue the story. But the point is like one of the model girls was in charge of filming the shoot. Another was in charge of lighting. I mean, it was insane. So what ended up happening is they had to go to the front to Milk Studios and have all these people come in and set up everything for them because they didn't know how to do any of it because once again, this is not their thing. They are celebrity DJs and fashion twins, and their friends are models. So then they're mad because they're kind of being embarrassed. And so then instead of being a professional saying like, oh, this is frustrating, like, sorry guys, we're unprepared, they're lashing out at the crew, at the makeup artists, at the hair people. And then my personal thing with them that really bugged me was they were, you know, as a makeup artist, I'm not one of those people who does like a lot of crazy makeup. I'm pretty much like, let's do a bronzy eye, a nice nude lip, or a pink lip, or something simple. Like again, red carpet background. That's what I care about. But I understand there's a level to art, like the level of artistry when you're doing like abstract. It's like painting on your face. You know, when you're like putting a complete design and you're taking photos with lighting and creating, like I do some of that more editorial style look. And what was so disappointing was they had this entire concept planned and then they started showing me their inspo, and all it was saved images on their very Instagrams of people they don't follow that they were stealing the ideas from. And it was to the point of this. I'd be like, okay, I see. So you want like, and I'm talking abstract shit. Like they want like purple lines curved around the curvatures of their face and it fades into like a pink and then the pink fades into an orange. And I'm like, okay, great. And so I started to do it and I'm like, how about we do, you know, like, let's try red instead of pink. You know, I give her a reason. I said, let's try red. You know, you have this color on. Why don't not that? And then she's like, no, just like the picture. I'm like, okay, that's a little weird. And so then I start to deviate a little bit because I'm like, well, I'm not going to copy this person. Like, and I'm still like, could I get in trouble for this? You know, like, is this like, you know, like thinking that in the back of my head, all this stuff. And so, but then I realized like every look, because it was a full day and I was like, oh my God, every look is going to be like this, to the point, like if one thing was going one direction the wrong way, they were like, oh, in the picture, it's like this. Like they have no creativity. So as a creative and by the way, they were being hired to be the creative directors of BeautyCon. So that's what this shoot was for. And it was like, oh my God, they don't know how to operate the cameras. They don't have any creative inspiration. They literally stole from all these creators. And now if I would have just had the wherewithal to remember more of this stuff, I could have canceled them so quickly because like it was, of course, you know, it was small Black creators. It was small Latina creators. It was other people who if they would have just liked the post or shared it and said like, oh, we drew, like they have over 1 million followers. What harm does that do to share the love? But then when things got real shitty, when lunch came, the way they treated the staff bringing in lunch, and they're just servers. I had a friend who worked at the Milk Studios as a cater waiter. It's hard there dealing with those celebrities. But people like Kim Kardashian, whatever you think about her, I've dealt with her personally. She's kind. She treats people with kindness. The way these girls treated the staff, and you know, there is a bit of a language barrier with a lot of people in Los Angeles who work in the food industry because just for whatever reason, that there is that language barrier. The way these girls made fun of the people who spoke Spanish and made fun of their accents when they were ordering behind their back after they left, not directly in front of them. I heard though. Other people heard. It disgusted me to the point that I walked up to the producer. I said, I'm leaving. I cannot be at lunchtime. I said, I'm leaving. I can't do this. I said, I'm leaving. She offered to increase my pay, said, please, I understand. We have to just finish. Just at this point, like your job's safe at BeautyCon. We know we're not going to be working with them again because like, this is crazy. Because there was other shit that they were doing, you know, like that didn't give me a headache. Like I said, literally coming in with just like this little film camera, thinking they're going to be able to use a film camera to do a complete digital screen at BeautyCon. I mean, they just had no concept of what it took to even do it. And I mean, it was just wild. So you have that level going on all behind the scenes. So everyone knew. And the fact that they were still wandering around. I remember at one point, she just like one of them, I mean, they look identical because they are identical twins and then they got matching plastic surgery. But one of them's talking about her watch being so expensive. And it's just so tacky. It's so tacky talking about how, especially, I mean, it was just, I just could not believe she was like, and then they had this, they had such a nose job that like they talk in such a weird way where it was like so annoying. And I'm not making fun of their accent at all. Like, I don't even think they have an accent, but they talk like this. So everything was just like, just like this nasal, cutting, bitchy. And I just remember them bragging about like this like $20,000 Rolex that they were gifted. And they were like, look, and like dropped on the ground. She's like, that's how much I give a shit. And just like in the middle of a shoot that's like falling apart around them. Like just stupid little stuff like that. But then the thing that I never knew was going to be the thing that everyone was going to want to know about was when they started talking about Bella's fucking face threading. And of course, at the time, I like barely care about Bella Hadid at all. I'm, like Yolanda was already long off of the Beverly Hills Housewives. So I was like, I don't care about Yolanda's kids from Housewives, like, and I don't keep up with the supermodels at all. But they start talking, one of them, they kind of start giggling and they're like, they're in their mirror facing makeup artists and like kind of, we're doing our own thing because it was very much like, don't be around us when we're talking. They were just cunts, like, sorry, but they were. And so basically, but I could still hear, I got big old ears and I can fucking hear. And they were like saying like, oh yeah, like, they were like saying something basically along the lines. You have to remember it's been 4 years and I've gone through chemo and all this stuff, but basically along the lines of just like, do you guys like the way that she's done that threading like around her ears? Don't you think her eyebrows are so straight? Like I remember that kind of stuff and being like, I can't remember anything beyond that, but the vibe was just basically like, the vibe that I got was like, sounds like a couple people are jealous of someone who's pretty. Like that was the vibe I got, like, oh, but I didn't.
Dating, then making out with your boyfriend, like, but also basically copying her face in a lot of ways, but then also being with The Weeknd later on, when you think about it.
After being such good friends with her.
Yeah. It's so interesting, like the plastic surgery trends and stuff, and like all that threading, like, if you Google like thread mares, like it's like thread nightmares, like those things are will give you a very temporary lift, and like people have them like snap in their face. Like the thing about plastic surgery is like I have lip filler, I've had Botox in my face, I love getting like lasers done, but like you have to almost wait until something has been done for long enough before being the guinea pig for it yourself. Like I think some of these things people are doing, I'm like wondering how they're gonna look when they're 60. Like honestly, it's crazy to me. But that's crazy you had that experience, and also that they were the creative directors and were stealing content from small creators and not crediting them.
Not just small creators. I'm talking about like makeup artists who had like less than 1,000 followers, because they would like send me, I'd be like, and at one point I was like, I'm gonna, because I was so mad, but it was pre-TikTok, it was, Instagram didn't have reels, like I don't even know at this point, did Instagram even have stories? Like I can't even remember. I mean, yeah, I'm sure they did because it was only like 2016 or so. But anyways, yeah, it was wild, and it just their energy. But it was so funny. So I decided to do a video last year before all the Weeknd drama, before they betrayed Bella and all that stuff. And I just was like, you know what? I'm bored and I want to call them out because I saw that they had released a makeup line. And so I was just like, oh, and I got a bunch of shit saying like I was anti-Palestine. I was like, you guys, I love Bella and Gigi, and I also am not that's not my strong suit. Like I'm battling cancer and just complaining about these two bitches that I met, but people really misconstrued it. And then they were making fun of my makeup. And I was like, then I had to explain like, guys, I'm practicing putting makeup back on myself because my hands literally shake because once again, I'm battling cancer. And then people are like, oh, don't use the cancer excuse if you're going to diss Simi Hayes. And I'm like, holy shit, you guys are psychopaths. So then I deleted the video for a little bit. Then I just re-uploaded it recently. And it's got like, I was just so excited. I was like, oh my gosh, it's got like 35,000 views. Like I'm loving it. Like people are loving the tea about it. And people are being like, what did they say about Bella? Because I guess I did remember, and this is how I know I'm not lying, because I'm like, they were talking shit about Bella. I just kind of say it as a one-off in that video from last year. I was like, I don't know, they were bitches. They were like talking shit about Bella, who I thought was their friend, and so some eagle-eyed follower or whoever was like just recently commented and was like, what were they saying about Bella? And I was like, because she's cheating on her with The Weeknd now and all this stuff. And I was like, oh my god, I guess I have to like go in the brains. And that's what I remember them like, oh yeah, they were talking about the threading thing, and they were talking about her brows being really straight, and I think that was it that I can remember. But yeah, it was just very interesting that I posted about them last year and people were like, who are you even talking about? You're always in made up feuds with people. I'm like, I was in a feud with Sheena, like I said, like, and she had no idea. Like, I just love to get in my one-sided celebrity feuds. But then when I posted that video, and then I got a DM saying like, you're slandering and all this stuff, we're going to persecute you in the court to the fullest extent of the law. And I literally wrote back and I was like, okay, can't wait. And then every so often I comment, which I know I'm like, they must have restricted me because I can still comment, but like, I'll go comment and be like, hey guys, I'm still waiting for the lawsuit to drop, like anytime, like I could really use the money. So,
and
I get on
the thing is
they'd
be telling on themselves. And, I've read up on them a bit. They split their like childhood between, I think it was UAE, London, and New York, and like the level of wealth you have to have that upbringing where you're literally, transcontinental and then become a manufactured superstar and then are friends with the likes of Bella Hadid and Gigi and the Kardashians. Like they come from such an insane amount of privilege that like it doesn't surprise me that they didn't think twice about ripping off small Instagram accounts who really, if they were good people, they would have been like, let me shine a light on this account and give them like some of my followers. Like if makeup artists need followers, that's how there's like word of mouth and people learn about them. So it's honestly just crazy. Do you have like a number one makeup tip that girls listening or guys listening should, or them listening should use? Is there something that you love about product?
I mean, I think products, I do not believe in like, oh, there's one miracle product for all, because nothing works for everyone. Like I've dealt with clients with rosacea, whatever, but I will say there's a few key things that I love. One of my videos that I posted is my technique about blush. People are still doing the smiling trend where you smile and put the blush right here on the apple of your cheeks. And the problem is once you're done smiling, it drags it down. Obviously not this dramatically, but I always say, think of blush as more of like where you would place like the Neapolitan of the strawberry ice cream, where you would place like your contour and highlighter. So work on the cheekbone instead of the apple of the cheek and apply at like the hairline, like where your hair kind of is, and almost like how you would apply contour. And it kind of gives like this lifted blush thing. I guess it's really hard to describe it as opposed to seeing it. But yeah, you just lift the blush as opposed to starting just on the apple of your cheeks. It's very aging to have blush on the apple of your cheeks, and people just do not realize it because they think, oh, blush is automatically the thing that's going to make me look the most lively and youthful, and that is true. Blush is the secret weapon to look that's why we use blushy tones on our lips to look more full, and why we use blushy tones on our skin, and why blush outfits look so beautiful and all that thing. But the thing is it needs to be in the right place. Otherwise, it looks like you're splattering on and you are looking old and stinking. So I would say, and that applies with almost everything, even that viral concealer trend where it says, just do the inner corner of your eye and then the outer corner of your eye. That really doesn't matter because you're still blending concealer under your eye. But that concept is a good concept of always lifting slightly up. When you're applying your contour, blend it up. When you're doing your neck contour, blend it up. When you're applying your blush, blend it up. I mean, everything. If you're doing a wing liner, you're obviously gonna sharpen it up. Like you want everything to lift your face to give that's the purpose of makeup and avoiding having to get plastic surgery. And those threads we're talking about is by, just applying with a lift to it. So, everyone should try their brush strokes a little differently. Try something new. Even if it's just your eyeshadow, even if it's just your blush, even if it's just your highlighter, try it with a lift up and it will really, you'll start to notice a difference and people will make compliments to you. Like I did it from my one girlfriend and she's like, ever since I do it, everywhere I go, people are like, did you get work done? Like, did you get Botox? And she's like, it's just where I changed my blush. And I'm like, I swear by it.
I'm very into blush. I like the Westman Atelier stick, and then I use like some Charlotte Tilbury powder sometimes. But I think that's really good advice because you never want to drag down your face. You got to keep it nice and lifted, especially here in LA. We're all trying to look at least 5 years younger. So the last thing I really wanted to ask you about, and this is probably the most important thing I'm going to ask you about, is like your cancer journey. And like when you found out you had cancer, like did you just go for like a routine checkup, or did you feel like really something was really wrong? Like, and just your whole journey through that and everything with Be the Match, I really want to learn about.
Yeah, so basically in the summer of 2019, I started to get migraines, and those migraines led to a really sick kind of stomach bug. I was still working. I was able to do Jax and Brittany from Vanderpump Rules, their wedding. She's a dear friend of mine, so it was important to me, even though I was starting to feel rough. So that was the end of June, July, starting to feel just like a little bit not like myself. And then I was like, oh, well, I'm out in Kentucky. Maybe it's the heat. I'm not used to this Kentucky humidity, you know. And then I got home from that wedding and I went straight to the doctor because by then I was starting to feel really just kind of fatigued. And they said, oh, you have probably pneumonia or something like that. And it actually was a 2-month journey of me losing about 50 pounds, starting to just not eat, going to a bunch of doctors, thinking no one thinks cancer right away, so I was having really bad migraines and stomach problems. So I was going to specialists for each of those separate things, and they were finding nothing. Well, lo and behold, finally, it just kept getting worse. I kept to the point where I was not even able to keep down water. And, once you can't hold down water, that's a problem. And so that's when I called my neurologist or whichever doctor it was on the weekend. And they said, you need to go to a learning hospital, one of those hospitals that are big and have a lot of stuff to do. And obviously we live in LA, so I was lucky to be able to go to a very big, popular hospital. And I checked myself in on the 25th. They immediately admitted me. And by the 27th, I was diagnosed with leukemia. And I did not leave that hospital. So that was August 25th. I checked in. And I think I ended up leaving sometime at the beginning of October, maybe the end of September, undergoing my first round of chemo, all of this stuff. It was a shock. My mom had to take a red eye as soon as I even brought up the cancer was a possibility within that 48-hour period. I mean, it was, I remember just like drafting a notes thing because I didn't know how to tell all my friends. Like I literally had a job booked the next day, and I was like, I'm literally in the hospital getting tested because I might have cancer. And then I got diagnosed with the cancer that they thought was most likely what it was. I mean, it was surreal. It was a nightmare, And so I just drafted it up. Like, I can't believe I'm typing this, but I've cancer. I don't know what to do. I had a lot of issues with the insurance system, with the financial system in LA, or not in LA, but in America, with our government and insurance and all that stuff. So it was a nightmare. They were trying to send me back to the hospital that I went to 4 times that had misdiagnosed me and didn't notice that my declining white blood cells, which is an obvious indicator of leukemia or any type of blood cancer. So there's a lot going on in the process. So I don't want to give away too much because I'm still legally, hopefully I will be able to, gain some of that financial freedom back that they stole away from me, because obviously the cancer journey itself takes so much away from you.
And I'm sure
so
you're like a
it
freelancer,
was difficult.
so you're probably, it's not like you're under some company's insurance. So you're somebody that had to be in the hospital for 2 months.
Smart.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I was smart enough to always have insurance. But like you said, freelancer, and I'm 29, 30, 31. I'm buying the cheapest insurance that I'm paying, $100 for a month. Like, I'm not paying for premium healthcare whatsoever. So it was a nightmare. We finally got myself kind of situated at the right hospital that I needed to be, that specialized in the leukemia that I had. And I found out that I would need a stem cell transplant, which is not a scary thing. I know, about 10, 15 years ago, we used to think of stem cells from like the fetuses of babies and all that stuff. No. Stem cells are so simply harvested, if you will, these days. It's done just from a extended blood draw, just like a blood draw. They don't have to go into your bones and get it out of your marrow or anything dramatic. But it turned out I was going to need a match, and it was no one in my family, because of the type of cancer I had. It needed to be a fresh, completely new stem cell system that would rebuild my immune system from the ground up. And that's how stem cell transplants work. And we utilize this, it's a nonprofit agency called Be the Match. And they sign up people to a registry. And if you have the genetic markers that match people like me, who are in desperate need of a transplant, they will call you up and you will donate your stem cells, which again is like a blood draw, an extended blood draw. It does take longer than just a few minutes, but obviously I would be dead without my hero who took the time to do this. So it's something I'm very passionate about, and it was something I had no idea about, that stem cell transplants exist, also called bone marrow transplants. They cure tons of leukemias. So But yeah, so there's so many people who are affected by leukemia. And what really got me was the kids who are affected by it, because it's such a disease that affects young people and really elderly people. I was a freak case that I got the old person's version just by bad luck, but I was shocked by how many people could be saved and cured by these stem cell transplants. So I was so happy to be to get involved with Be the Match, and I received my transplant from an anonymous donor. I still don't know who it is yet. This year I can request to meet them. It's kind of like a blind adoption a little bit, where you get to request to meet them. I hope he agrees to it, but obviously I respect his privacy if he doesn't want to. But to my family and to my friends, he is a hero who saved my life. 70% chance of dying quickly became a 100% chance of living once I survived the transplant, and it's all thanks to him. So the work that Be the Match does is basically connecting normal people, everyday people like you, who have not been affected by cancer or any blood diseases, and they will send you for free a swab that you don't have to stick up your nose or anything. You just do your cheeks and you put it in a little thing and you mail it back completely free, and you are on a registry. And then if you ever get the call, you go and do a bit of a 3-day, 4-day kind of experience of donating blood each day, or it's kind of like donating plasma. And yeah, that's it. And you become a hero. It's a wild thing. But what's interesting about it is based on genetic markers. So my role as an ambassador has been twofold really. Is, as a gay person, I love that Be the Match does not discriminate against gay people donating, because we know that we live in the 21st century, and that gay people, AIDS and HIV, first of all, is not a death sentence, and second of all, is not a gay person's disease. It's just a blood disease. So Be the Match does not turn away anyone who is gay, bisexual, anything like that, like the American Red Cross does for blood donations. So I really admire them for that. Of course, the blood is still screened just like it should be for anyone, but there's no prejudice against the blood before it gets to the screening process, which I really, really think is important. And the American Red Cross needs to step the fuck up and stop that discrimination, because there are so many queer people out there who would happily donate blood and happily save some life, but Be the Match does allow that. And the other disturbing thing that I will say is that it is based on, unfortunately, ethnic background, because it's dealing with your DNA and your genetic markers. So a lot of that has to do with the history of where you come from. And so for me, my heritage is, European, and the guy I do know has a background of being German and Irish and British, which again is my heritage as well. Not saying we're related, but saying it's similar. And so there's a big inconsistency just because of lack of knowledge, and because this is a newer kind of transplants, bone marrow transplants have only existed within the past 20, maybe 25 years or so, maybe 30, but to the point we're at now, very new, and the way they're going about it is new. And the statistics for me, I had, a 77% chance of finding a donor. An Asian person has a 30-something% chance of finding a donor. A black person has a 20% chance of finding a donor. So as a young person with a diverse group of friends and who knows a lot of different people, my calling during this period while I'm still recovering is to say everyone needs to sign up for Be the Match, because no one should have to die because when it's a curable disease and they're just waiting on someone who might be afraid because they think, oh, well, I don't know what a stem cell transplant is. Like I heard stem cells are dead babies, or I heard, that they're going to track me and keep track of me on the registry. It's a government thing. It's a nonprofit. It's not, there's a lot of, rightfully so, a lot of myths and questions that we have against agencies that feel, kind of like they're taking our information. But I can speak as someone whose life was saved by Be the Match, that as many people as possible need to get out there and just sign up, just get the little swab kit mailed to you, swab it in, join the registry. And if you get the call, I beg of you to answer it. But especially if you know people who are in those minorities that I mentioned, I am a lucky one, and that it's unfair and it doesn't make sense, and it's just the way it is, but I'm a lucky one, and I have to process my own survivor's guilt with that. But the least I can do is say, listen, gay people, we can get involved. If you're Black, if you're mixed, if you're Asian, if you're any ethnicity, get your family to sign up. Get everyone to sign up, because there are little kids. The amount of parents that, even though I have a small following, I'm still very in tune to the cancer community. So I get messages all the time from people. There's a little girl right now. Her name's Oakley. Maybe she's just celebrated her year-old birthday. She's waiting for her match. Another one, Paisley is waiting for a donor who backed out 8 days before her transplant was due. And anything could have happened. They could have gotten ill. They could have gotten COVID. Like, we live in crazy times. But the point is we need more people signing up for Be the Match. So I just implore anyone listening. I mean, I can tell you right now the number to text. It's 5 digits. You just text my username. We can share all that stuff. But please, bethematch.org. Check it out. I beg of you.
Absolutely. I've been a member for a year. It could not have been a more seamless, easy process. I, put in my information. Be the Match sent a little package to my house. All I had to do was swab the inside of my cheeks. It took 2 seconds. They gave you the return slip and everything, put it back out. Within a month, I had like a really cool membership card that I keep in my pocket, and my swab is in the registry. It's been in for a year. Right after you posted about I think it was your remission, story, about a week later, my year anniversary with Be the Match came up, and I was like, oh, how cool. Yes, please keep me in the registry. But guys, seriously, I mean, you could definitely save a life, and I wish every single person was in the Be the Match registry just to hear that you went from a 70% chance of dying to 0, all because one person decided to donate and be a part of the registry, is absolutely, I have chills all over my body just thinking of it.
And I had 3 other possible donors. That popped up that canceled on me or turned out to be not as viable. But that's a lot. Like, I was lucky to have almost not options, because like my doctor was like, well, if we have to go with this one, obviously it would have been like, as maybe I would have been sicker for longer or would have taken longer. But the point is like, everyone should have as many options as that I had. So really it's about diversifying the registry and just making sure more and more people know about it. So that's amazing that you're doing that. And I have told them, if you're unsure if you're in the registry, or if you said, oh, I signed up like 10 years ago, just request a new thing. It's free. Just request it and just double check. It can't hurt. There are age limits. I believe it's around 45, because again, it's all about genetics. So obviously the younger the genes are, the less damaged the blood and the immune system has been by, several years of fighting off different things. So there are certain restrictions, but that doesn't stop you from being able to spread the word. I obviously can't be a donor because I received a donation, but I still spread the word almost every day. So thank you for letting me go on that whole tangent.
Oh my God, it's
really
important to me,
it.
and I hope that like people listening really take this to heart and know that like there is no feeling more desperate than seeing a loved one in that situation or being in that situation. So, anyone that can do it, like if you haven't had any issues with cancer before, please, or it's blood cancer, right?
Well, it cures also other issues too, which is wild. It also can cure people with sickle cell anemia and different blood diseases that children are getting that are really like rare blood diseases. They're finding that stem cell transplants can cure way more than just blood cancer. But for me, it was blood cancer. But yeah, it's the future, and it's a team effort, And in European countries, it's not required, but it's like highly encouraged, like when you hit a certain age, to sign up. And that's why so many of our donors come from Germany and different countries in Europe, because it's very much talked about on the regular. So with all of your followers, I'm so appreciative that more people get to hear about it.
Oh, we'll continue to plug it. And now I have to ask you this as my last question for you. As somebody who's young but has truly knocked on death's door, what did you change about your life, or what was something you took away from that, being so close to feeling like you were going to die?
That's an interesting perspective that I've obviously, I've had a lot of therapy, so it's not shocking to think about like my death or whatever. I will say in the moment, your thought process is definitely not like your thought process is life. In the moment, when you're going through the chemo, you're just like, that's not even on the front. Whether with me, it involved taking a lot of medication to make me forget my scenario, but it also involved, pop music and getting involved in other stuff to distract myself. But what I found recently as I've reached the other side, survived that 100-day period, survived all the COVID scares when I had no immunity. And during those days where I couldn't have visitors and when I really start to think about what could have been, it made me shift the simplest things. It made me realize I can take a walk and go outside and I don't need to check my phone. I don't need to respond to that email right when it comes in, which I know sounds so stupid because we know that innately. But it's like, oh, I can take a walk and still listen to my headphones, and I can put my phone on Do Not Disturb, and I can look up and I can see that tree. Even though it's LA, it's still a beautiful palm tree, and the skyline is beautiful, and I can see the rocky terrain in the background. And all of a sudden I'm like, oh, this is life. This is the beauty of life, is being able to enjoy these little things that, because I was in the full hustle and grind. I was working 12-hour days, going makeup job to makeup job. I mean, I was doing 5 of the 7 women from Vanderpump Rules. I was doing Selling Sunset with Chriselle. I was doing the girls from Orange is the New Black and all their new projects. Like, I was spreading myself so thin. I didn't want to turn down a single thing because I didn't want to miss out on something. And let me tell you, I think we all experienced a little bit of it because of the pandemic. Of like, oh, it's okay to be by myself. It's okay to take the time to myself. It's okay to prioritize self-care. But when you almost die, whew, that becomes top priority. And the other thing that I really am proud about is the little stuff that used to bother me, the stuff that I'm a super sensitive person. So I would, if someone would complain like, oh, I didn't really like how my eyeliner looks, can you fix it? It would eat me alive. I'd be like, oh my God, are they going to call me the next time for a job? Not my regulars, but like new clients or whatever. It would just stupid shit. And I would look back now and I say, I can't believe I would lose a night of sleep over going into work to go do someone's makeup the next day. I can't believe that. And then, so I'm letting things go that just are whatever. But the other thing is I'm confident and I will speak up about things that maybe I would have just let go beforehand. Like someone yelled at me for just a stranger. And, I live in Encino, which is kind of an uppity neighborhood. And I don't live in the uppity part, but we live near it, near a couple of housewives, Dorit and Richards, just to continue my name dropping. But just for an example, like a guy drove by and my dog was relieving himself, as dogs often do outdoors. And before I even had a chance to pick up the mess, this old man had the audacity in his beautiful Range Rover, white Mercedes, whatever it is, rolled down his window. It's a beautiful sunny Sunday morning. There's no traffic. He's blaring his horn, honking at me. I'm like, what the fuck's going on? Is there a wreck? And he's like, you better pick up your dog shit, And I'm like, oh, no. And this is the other side of it. Oh, no. I just died. I'm not going to be yelled at by some old grumpy rich man who's going to tell me to clean up my dog shit. So I also have found that I have the confidence to say, oh, sir, excuse me, shut the fuck up. I will take this dog shit and throw it right into your car if you do not keep driving. Now that might be more of a metaphor for my mindset than an actuality of what I would do. But that's the mindset. It's like, I'm not going to, it's a fine balance. I don't care about the little things, but I'm also not going to take any more shit because it's like, dude, I almost died, It's an undescribable experience. It's truly indescribable. And the most incredible part about it is how small it feels in hindsight. And it just made me realize, to truly live life with no abandon. So if that means, I want to yell at the rich old man who's telling me I need to pick up dog shit, no duh. I'm going to pick up my dog shit. But if I want to yell at him and defend myself, even though it's petty, I'm going to do it because I know life is short. And likewise, on the flip side of that, when I know something is petty, I can just let it go now because I'm like, it's petty. Life is short. So it's been kind of this fun thing to be like, yeah, I really don't care. But you have to, be careful not to be nihilistic either, where everything, or nihilistic, however the word was pronounced, where everything is like, well, I know I'm going to die eventually, so nothing matters. No, that's not the way. It's this peace that I found in a weird way, because it's like, well, I faced my worst fear, which is almost dying. So, nothing is as bad as that. Nothing's going to be as bad as that. And that's kind of how I view it.
That is incredible. And I think it just put everything in perspective for you so that you're living even more fully now. And obviously I'm just so proud to be your friend, and everything you're doing with Be the Match and taking your experience to hopefully save a lot more lives. And, you know, I know you feel the survivor's guilt of it all, but honestly, you were doing so much, and just you speaking out, like, you'll never even know the scope of who you help. But I just love you, Jared. I feel like I could have picked apart just like so many other things that you said. So I'm going to have you back on one of these days. But tell everyone where they can find you and plug Be the Match. Tell them all your handles and everything.
Okay, let me see if I can do it without burping, because I just had a sip of Coca-Cola. Okay, here we go. So my main thing is on Instagram, Jared Lips. That's where my podcast, Back on Air, is. I did my first 2 seasons. First season's kind of about cancer and just recovery and that kind of stuff, and with special guests. And my second season is about Free Britney. Third season is coming out soon in April. And I'm on Twitter, Jared M. Lips, and TikTok, Jared Lips. And just keep in touch with me there. I reply to almost every single DM, unless it's a nasty one, then I just block you. But I love to interact with people. I'm newer on TikTok. I'm very chaotic on there. But Lauren, I think we should do some TikToks together. And I definitely will be back. So let me know what you guys want to hear about, too. Let Lauren know what you guys want to talk about. Because Lauren is right. Being a makeup artist in Hollywood for, almost a decade, I got some stories, so we can talk and dissect a lot more detail whenever you're ready.
We need to do like another town hall just about makeup. But Jared, you're a delight. Thank you so much. And everyone go give Jared a follow.
Thank you.
All right, everyone. Well, that's our show. Jared was such an amazing guest. Probably one of my favorite I've ever had, even though I love all of my guests. What a delightful human, and just such an inspiring story of surviving leukemia and everything he's doing with Be the Match, and just being such a fun soul and spirit all around, and truly just like the heartbeat of LA. Absolutely love that guy. Well, anyway, that is our show for today. Thank you all for listening in, and I will see you all next time.